Let's turn to our political analysts, Josh Earnest and Nicolle Wallace. Guys, good morning. Good to see you both.
Nice
President's back from 9 days overseas. No place like home. That doesn't quite make sense. What's going to drive headlines this week?
Listen, they even, right before I came on, sent a note saying, remind people of the historic moves we made in the Middle East. No one's going to be talking about any of the good things about the trip. They'll be on cleanup from the stop in NATO, which was, by people on both sides of the aisle considered to be a debacle, that the president didn't affirm our commitment to NATO, to protecting our allies. That's the foreign policy side. And on the domestic side, it's what Peter just laid out. They have a sort of Defcon 4 political crisis on their hands with the Russia investigation. And it now goes not just to the top echelons of the West Wing senior staff, it goes to the deep inner circle of the president's family.
Which is now the perfect segue to talk about Jared Kushner, the son-in-law, the senior advisor, and now reportedly somebody who set up or tried to set up a secret communications channel with the Russians before inauguration. I should point out the White House has not denied this. The president has said he's a good person and defended Jared Kushner, but not denied that this took place. How significant is that?
It's quite significant, Savannah, because it raises a really big question. Why was it so important for senior Trump officials, and like you said, certainly not the president himself, but the president's son-in-law, to be in secret communication outside the listening of the U.S. intelligence community and the United States military? And why did that communication have to take place before President Trump took office? It raises all kinds of questions, particularly in light of new reporting that now indicates that Mr. Kushner sought to use that channel to actually meet with a Russian banker who himself has a close personal relationship with Vladimir Putin.
And they say it was all about talking about Syria and the civil war there and other national security issues. You're not buying that?
I'm not buying that, primarily because why would you want to talk to a Russian banker about what was happening in Syria? But also, you would think that if you wanted to set up that channel to talk about the situation in Syria, you would want President Trump to have the benefit of the advice from his intelligence advisors, from his military advisors, from his diplomatic advisors, who could all help him formulate this new policy. That presumably is what you'd use that secret channel for. It seems pretty obvious that they had some other intentions.
Nicolle, Jared Kushner is not any normal political advisor. He's family. He's the son-in-law. He's also somebody that has weathered a lot of storms and sort of occupied his own space inside the White House. If his star is starting to fade, or if the president starts to doubt him, what does that mean?
But I don't accept that the president is starting to doubt him or that his star is starting to fade. I think he's going to be busier and more distracted. And I think he is someone who, at 25 years old, his father went to prison and he took over a family empire. I think that hardens, just at the human level, that hardens a human being in a way that most political operatives, I'd say you and I included, have not been tested personally. So I think he's a tough guy. I think that what continues to trip up this White House. They were so unprepared to assume the office of the presidency that they had no staff. I find it hard to believe that they couldn't wait a few weeks to start engaging in foreign policy. Their excuses are nonsensical, and even their attorneys are trying to get their arms around the set of facts to see if these explanations and these excuses hold water. They make no sense when you consider what was happening. They had no cabinet, yet they had to urgently rush into foreign policy negotiations secretly with Russia. It makes no sense.
So what you're both telling us, it's going to be another calm week in Washington. Perfect.
Happy summer,
Josh,
everybody.
thank you, Nicolle. Thank you as well.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.